2018 upgrade. So today I'm going to be installing the FlySky receiver and remote. Of course, this is model FS-GT2B. Guys, the receiver on Kojot burned out, so I need to go ahead and install a new one. Let's open this thing up and check it out. Okay, so let's get this open. Go ahead and pull open the tab, pop open the top. Finally get everything out. There is the desk for the instructions. This really isn't all that important, but still not a good thing that it fell out of the sleeve. Of course, we have USB. Guys, there is a LiPo. As you can see, it's right there. And whenever you need to charge it up, all you have to do is plug it in using the USB. We have the remote itself and, of course, the receiver. Which, yes, it does come with the antenna tube as well as the link. I guess you can say rod because it helps you push the button that's on the receiver. All right, guys, so here we have it. Let's go ahead and get this installed. So the first thing we need to do is take apart the waterproof receiver box. It's held together with 4 screws, 2 for the wire tie down and then 2 more for the top. Alright, now with the lid out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get a flathead screwdriver. And I'm going to pop out the old receiver. Next up, I need to go ahead and unplug the ESC and the servo. And then I have to undo the antenna, and it's held down with this little grub screw that I have to loosen up. And then should be able to go ahead and pull out the rest. Now it's time to go ahead and install the new receiver. I went ahead and put some double-sided tape on the back, which they, sadly enough, do not include. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick it into the receiver box. Now the thing is that you're going to want to have the plugs at the top of the box, closest to the center drive line. Now it's time to go ahead and plug the ESC into channel 2 and the servo into channel 1. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and feed the antenna through the top of the waterproof receiver box. Then I'm going to slide the antenna tube onto the tip, making sure that it covers up the whole end of the antenna. Once I get the tip completely into the antenna tube, I'm going to go ahead and slide it back down into the antenna tube holder. And then tighten down that grub screw. Now I need to go ahead and make sure that the seal for the waterproof receiver box is in place, and then I'm going to get the lid. I'm going to go ahead and put it back on top, making sure not to pinch any of the wires, and then I'm going to reattach the 2 screws that hold it down. Next, I need to go ahead and push the wires into the proper grooves. You'll see that there's a small one for the antenna, 2 mediums for, of course, the ESC and the servo, and then a 4th one that we just aren't going to be using. So I'm going to put the wire tie down back into position and then reattach the last 2 screws. Now it's time to go ahead and install the LiPo battery into the remote. Go ahead and pull this out. Check it out. Looks pretty good. Now we're just going to go ahead and flip the remote over. There's only one way this can really go in. Slide that in position. Reattach the lid. And now we're going to open this part up. And there we have it. We can now turn this on. Next up, I need to go ahead and plug in a battery so we can program the ESC. With the remote on, I'm just going to go ahead and push and hold the ESC button until it starts flashing red. Once it flashes red once, I'm going to pull the trigger all the way down. Once it flashes twice, I'm going to push it all the way forward. Once it starts blinking green, I can let it go. And there we have it. It has now been programmed. Alright, so I have a little bit of an issue. As you can see, the steering is reversed. So what I'm going to have to do is reverse the steering, and now it's correct. However, you can see that it's not doing the full rotation when I turn. That is what this is for. The steering for the servo can be controlled on this. I'm going to put that up at 100%. Now you can see I can do the full motion. If I want it any less for any reason, I can easily adjust that. There's also a throttle trim, a steering trim, and of course the binding button that if you need to bind it for a new receiver. And there you have it, guys. Before I end this video, I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit about this remote. I have to admit, guys, I really do love this thing compared to the Traxxas version of it. Mainly due to the fact that, well, first of all, the LiPo battery, guys. Once that battery dies, all you have to do is literally plug it in to the USB and then let it recharge. And that's it. Simple as that. Once it's recharged, you're ready to go. And it takes a long time for this LiPo battery to die. There is also a handle, which they give you a replacement for in case you want to go ahead and switch it out. And yes, they give you the binding plug and whatever you can call that, stick, binding stick. But you needed to go ahead and use it on the receiver itself if you want to bind it to another receiver. But guys, I love the feel of this. The only complaint that I have about it is that it is a little bit top heavy and the base is pretty narrow. So it really doesn't take too much for it to fall forward. But that is really my only complaint. And with that being said, this upgrade is now done with. And it was all made possible by the people who donated to me on Patreon. Guys, thank you so much for helping me out. I really couldn't have done it without you. Now, before I end this video, there's one more thing I want to go ahead and tell you. And that is, I am going to go ahead and do a backslash conversion for this RC. So from this moment forward, this RC will no longer be called Kojot. It will be known as